The honourable member for Prince Albert.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's great to be here this afternoon to talk about the budget implementation too. Mr. Speaker, if you don't mind, when we get close to about a minute, if you could kind of give me a signal, I'd appreciate it so I know roughly where my time's at. And of course, before I get started, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to inform the House that we've had our municipal elections in Saskatchewan here last night. We've had a lot of great people put their name in the ballot, and I just want to thank all those people for doing that. You know, it's always tough, and I think everybody in the House would understand that when you put your name in the ballot and you run for something and you go out there and you shake hands, you talk to people, and there's always winners and losers. And I want to say that everybody puts their name in the ballot as a winner, and I think we really appreciate that they're willing to make that type of sacrifice. I also want to congratulate, I've got a few new mayors and a few new councillors and reeves. I really look forward to working with them because that's something that I pride myself on when I go back to the riding, that I sit down and talk to our local mayors and reeves and councillors and really get a feel and talk with our local MLAs on what the priorities for the riding of Prince Albert are and making sure that those principles and those priorities are represented here in Ottawa. You know, I also want to thank the mayors and the councillors that lost, and just that we appreciate the time that they've given to their communities. And thank you, John. I appreciate the 1 minute notice. But I'm sorry there, Mr. Speaker. But regardless, I just want to say thanks for their years of service. And you know, they've went and they've committed to their communities. They've given a lot of times for very little or no pay. And I guess I want them to know that the people in the riding of Prince Albert appreciate the effort that they've done and the sacrifices they made, not only of them but of their families. Mr. Speaker, when I talk about Implementation Act number 2, you know, basically this is nothing new for this government. This is a government that has been focused on creating jobs and growth of the economy and setting the stage for long-term growth so that our kids, when they get out of high school, when they go to university, they have a good platform and a good opportunity to get a job, create a good standard of living, to raise their family. You know, those are the things that we're putting in place through the Budget Implementation Act that actually will ensure long-term security for Canada and Canadians in the future. You know, as coming from Saskatchewan, I would have to really highlight some of the things that I think are really going to impact the province of Saskatchewan. Of course, changes to the agriculture world is very important in Saskatchewan. Mind you, mining and production and manufacturing also is increasing in Saskatchewan. But historically, Saskatchewan is known as an agriculture province, and we all have roots in Saskatchewan to our agricultural base. You know, one of the things we did this last year that I think a lot of farmers are really appreciative of this year when they went to the harvest time, and it was a tough harvest, I must say, is the changes we made to the Marketing Freedom Act, is basically allowing farmers the choice and freedom to sell their grains in whichever way they see fit. You know, I had to talk to farmers the last time I was back in the riding during the break week, and they talked about how they had the choice now. They could take their wheat, they could market it today, or they could take their canola and market it today. And because they have the options, they can actually plan their cash flows, they can actually market the product that makes the most sense and establish the best price for that product at that appropriate time. And it's changes like this that we've made to agriculture that actually has made the lives of farmers better, and actually we're seeing a lot more young kids going into farming now because there's profitability back at the farm gate. But just like anything else, when you make changes, you have to make more changes. And we've got some important changes coming to the Canadian Grain Commission. Now, I understand some people would say we should make even more changes, but I think we have to step into this in a step-by-step process. And I think we've done this in a proper process in the Budget Implementation Act. And I just maybe will highlight some of the things that we're doing. We're improving the efficiency by removing outdated commission services. We're streamlining regulations, only regulating what is necessary. We're reducing costs for farmers, which is always important. We have greater international domestic competitiveness for farmers, and we work towards a more sustainable funding model for the Grain Commission itself. Plus, we're ensuring a greater dependability of the grain shipments. You know, those are things that reflect the comments that stakeholders have made throughout the consultation process over the last couple of years, and we've actually had different types of changes brought forward to this House. One time it was hoisted by the NDP because they didn't like the changes. The other time it was, of course, defeated because we went into a federal election. But you know, these changes are very important because right now when you look at the Canadian Grain Commission, the Commission and the Act is actually made for something like a horse-drawn carriage where farmers are using super bees. It needed to be modernized to reflect the changes in the agriculture sector and what's happened in the agriculture sector. And I think we've got a good balance in the changes, and I look forward to seeing that coming forward either to the Finance or the Agriculture Committee as we move forward. Of course, one of the other things that I think is very important, and we've seen the results of the latest problems we've had with the meat issue here in Canada, is protecting Canadian foods. And of course, the Canadian Grain Commission does a great job in ensuring that we've got a safe handling system, that the standards of quality grain are there, the quality and research is also there. You know, they actually help shore in part of that safe food aspect of it, and I think this will also be very important. Of Of course, in Saskatchewan, we have the good old University of Saskatchewan, University of Regina. Here's two great educational facilities that do great research and great work, and they educate all the kids across Canada. So, for example, in my riding at Prince Albert, we have kids that might go to the first year and second year of university in the cities of Prince Albert or Nipawin or Melfort, but then they'll do their third and fourth year either in Saskatoon or Regina, and they get a great quality of education. They've actually, some of the best schools in Canada. But of course, they need proper research. So what we've done for them, for example, the University of Saskatchewan will receive $4.4 million in the SSHRC to explore past and future environmental sustainability. Again, good research dollars meant for future things. Agriculture, the scientists at the U of S receive $3.4 million in Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, allowing the U of S to remain at the forefront in ag research. Of course, we've had general funding in research. If you look at the Economic Action Plan, there's $37 million of annual funding for the granting councils, which enhances their funding or support for industry academic research partnerships initiatives. Also proposing $60 million for genomics research, which is something that I've got to know quite well, especially coming out of the University of Saskatchewan. The genome research they're doing is fabulous. The way that they've done that research now and the way we apply that into plant breeding, we're taking something that used to take 8 or 10 years for a new variety to be developed in plant breeding and bringing it down into 12 to 16 months, and it's amazing what they can do with the technology there. And of course, $500 million over 4 years to the Canadian Foundation for Innovation. And again, those are things that I think everybody in this House would agree with. We need to keep supporting research, and we want to make sure that we have proper research and dollars in place to see that research move forward, because that'll make Canada even stronger as we move forward. Another thing that's a change that's really going to affect Saskatchewan and really affect the municipalities, and I know this is something they've been asking for and lobbying for quite a few years, and that changes to the Navigable Waters Act. A lot of people think the changes in this act actually is changing to the environmental process. It is not. The environmental process is still separate, and it's still something that the RMs will have to deal with on a case-by-case basis. But what's happening in my riding and in rural ridings is we're seeing people, or navigable waters, first of all, taking a long period of time to approve a project. So any little stream or river that crossed the road, when they went to rebuild that road, they applied to navigable waters. In fact, I've got a great example here from the RM of Meadow Lake, which I'll read to you, because it kind of maybe gives you an idea of what they're dealing with when they came to navigable waters. But basically, what they were doing in Meadow Lake is they were trying to put a bridge over a creek. They applied in April of 2010. They didn't get approval until November of 2011, so they actually missed 2 construction seasons just waiting for approval. And when they did get approval on this creek, they actually were forced to put in a bigger bridge. So they actually had to build up the roadbed to accommodate a canoer to go in on this creek. Well, that sounds fine and dandy if there's a lot of canoers on that creek, but there's never been a canoer on that creek. So if you looked at the cost, the time, what the RM had to go through that process to put that bridge in place, where they could have just put a normal culvert, it would have saved our municipalities a lot of money and a lot of time. Plus, the road would have got fixed a lot quicker. There's many examples in my riding that have a lot of bridges and little bridges that need to be replaced, that if it would make sense if there were bridges that actually on creeks or streams that had people using them, but in 99.9% of these cases, they don't. So what this does is it actually brings some common sense into the Navigable Waters Act. So on these creeks and these little streams, we can put a culvert in, we can reduce the costs, and actually make sure we've got proper infrastructure for these new great big super bees that farmers are using when they go down the road. So that's the things that I see in this act, Mr. Speaker, that I think we should really highlight. And of course, there's many other things in the act itself. When you look at Canada and where we're going to be in the future, when you look around the globe, when you look around and see what's happening in the U.S., what's happening in Europe, what's happening in Greece, I advise my colleagues to be very careful about changing something that's working. And obviously what's going on in Canada right now is working. Getting back to balanced budgets, that's working. Canadians want to see that. Making sure we've got the safety nets in place, the proper health care in place, we have that. We're increasing funding to the provinces. So those types of things are working. What we don't want to do is disrupt the apple cart and end up like Greece. So we need to maintain a responsible government and responsibility in our spending. We need to be targeted, we need to be focused, maybe like a laser, like one of my colleagues would always say all the time. But I think what's important is that we keep on the track that we're heading, because it doesn't matter where you go throughout the world, they agree that Canada is the shining light when it comes to our economy, when it comes to our banking sector. And I can't see why we'd want to shake up that apple cart. I think the wise and prudent thing is to see through see forward what we're doing right now, Mr. Speaker. And I think when we look back on it 5 years, 10 years from now, we can all say that by approving this Budget Amendment Act, we help make Canada a stronger place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? L'honorable député de Jeanne-Labert.
Speaker. I appreciate the speech from the honourable member, and I too, and I would say all of this side are interested in getting things done. I guess the difference is that we want to make sure we get things done right. I'm okay. I'm pretty handy with my hands, screwing things in and changing light bulbs and so forth and so on. And I've done a bit of carpentry in my life. And one of the things that I learned as doing carpentry, which I actually apply to a lot of different aspects of my life, is measure twice, cut once. And I guess this is what we're looking at. We'd like to make sure that what we're doing is not based on expediency, it's not based on just getting it done, and it's not based on purely economical issues. It's based on getting it right. So if it does take a little longer and it's done right, I think it's something that we need to look at instead of just doing it quickly and then realizing, well, we could have done it differently. So I would like the honourable member to just, I guess, speak to that in terms of this omnibus bill and all the elements that are in there. There are some good elements in there, there are some bad elements there, but we're all being asked to vote on something in its entirety, all or nothing.
Order. Order. I was just trying to get enough time for all members to ask questions. The honourable member for Prince Albert.
Well, I thank the member, and I think I know where he's going. I think he's saying that he doesn't have enough time to go through the budget bill and to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. But you know what? A lot of the things that are in the budget bill have been in the budget bill for quite a while and actually have been debated in previous sessions of Parliament in different committees all the way through in the minority parliaments. So actually, when you start looking back at the different items that are in it, they've actually had full fleshing either in committee or in the House of Commons or both. But through some manner or another, whether it's an election or a minority government, they didn't proceed forward. So when you look at that, and you talk to Canadians, they'd say, well, why would you go through that whole process again? Why would you spend all that time, all that effort, but more importantly, why would you waste all that money redoing all the work that you've done in the past 4 years? So and when you look at this, Mr. Speaker, these things are not new concepts. These are concepts that governments have used in the past. Balanced budgets. Look at some of the provinces that decided to maintain balanced budgets. Saskatchewan, for example. A balanced budget, I can't find enough employees in my riding to do the work. Why is that? Because the economy has been established in such a way that the business sector is flourishing like crazy. They can't find enough people. So as long as we keep doing policies similar to that.
Order. Questions? I appreciate the enthusiasm of members. These 5-minute questions and comments period, I don't like to cut people off, but I know other members would like to put questions to the honourable member for Prince Albert. Questions and comments. The honourable member for Oak Ridge's Markham Unionville, rather.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I congratulate the honourable member for his speech, and I want to ask a question relating to his comment about Canada as a shining light. I wonder if he knew that this Prime Minister has led Canada to its second lowest economic growth since R.B. Bennett during the Great Depression, or that Conservatives took 5 years to increase the national debt by 33%, or that for every $5 of debt accumulated since Confederation, one of those dollars was incurred in the last 5 years. So in light of this dismal record on growth and massive accumulation of debt, I wonder why he says that Canada is a shining light, and I wonder whether he would not agree that given this dismal record, the Economic Action Plan is indeed far from perfect.
Member for Prince Albert.
Well, I have to totally disagree with the member on that. In fact, I think the member should turn on his television at night and see what's going on in the rest of the world. We are facing one of the worst global crises since 2008. You know, how many years? That's been 4 years now we've been in global crisis. Look at Canada, look at the situation. Let's compare it to Greece. Let's compare to Europe. Let's compare to the U.S. Let's compare to anybody else in the G8 or G7. This country is performing like crazy. So look at Canada. Look at Canada. Be proud of it. Instead of the Liberal Party, what they want to do is they want to take out little facts and misleading figures or percentages and adjustments. Reality is Canadians are working. We need more people to work in Saskatchewan. Jobs are here. The economy is growing. It's stable. It's balanced. Mr. Speaker, I can't see what the problem is with that.